Hey folks, it's Bob out here at Serenity Hill. Just thought I'd give you a quick update on, well, quick as far as I do, where I'm going right now. You know, we had the apocalypse yesterday, and we survived that. So I got to get busy with more work. So let me show you where I am and what I'm up to right now. All right, you can see I'm missing some tile on this. And I'm also missing tile on this one right here on the front side. But what I did is I went ahead and I got rid of all of my, all the spacers and levelers, and I went through and cleaned it. I've got to come through and wash it again. I can see some haze still on it from some of the mortar. But cleaned up my kitchen countertops, and I'm going tomorrow. I've got to go to a town about 60 miles or so away from here to get the rest of my bullnose tile, because my local Menards says they have it in stock, but there's none on the shelf. So they do have it supposedly at a town north of us. So I'll be going to pick that up, and then I can finish. You can see right over there, it needs the tile also. So I need half a dozen pieces, and then I'll be finished with the tile work here, and then I'll do my grout. I've got the grout on hand already. And then I'll show you what I got in the shower here. Now this is the entryway. I've got the wall done, the whole side wall. And I've got the floor done, the pebbles. I've got some tile or some cement board here, and I need to put down for my threshold. Problem is, I don't have any more cement board screws, so I got to buy some more cement board screws. And instead of making a trip today, well, I'll combine that tomorrow, and then I'll finish up. I've got most of my pieces cut to finish up the tile around my my little nooks there, and pick up my grout and be ready to grout. And what I'll do tomorrow when I get back with my cement board screws, I'll screw this down, pull my ledger board here, and I'll put in those last few pieces of tile I need here at the bottom. I've got the floor done on the entryway. Did that yesterday. So just an hour, a couple hours tomorrow when I get back with materials, and I'll have the shower ready so that come Thursday morning I can start grouting my shower and then put in my fixtures, and I'll be ready to turn water on and have a shower in here. I'm kind of excited about that. So in the meantime, since I don't have those parts, I always have some projects that that I can go to. And so what I'm doing is something that I actually have parts on hand for, that I don't have to make a trip to the store, because anytime I have to make a trip to the store, you know, our local hardware stores, I'm putting some stuff up, so get it out of my way so you don't see as much of my mess. But the local hardware store, sometimes they have stuff and sometimes they don't. It's kind of hit or miss. So I end up making a trip to Menards. Besides, at Menards, I get my 11% discount, rebate rack rather. So what I'm doing right now is I'm working on my chandelier. So this is a piece that it's the top of a tree. I guess at one point or another, the top of the tree had gotten cut off, and then the branches down below the top started growing out and growing up. So it formed a really interesting tree. Well, the guy who cut these down and saved them for me, he'd had them laying on a ditch bank for about 3 years before I got them. He cut it off here because he thought it was really interesting. Now, I had another piece that was sticking up, coming up at an angle, and I cut that one off. And then what I've done here is I bought on Amazon some cloth covered wire. So it's got the THHN insulation underneath, but it's got the cloth covering on it, so it looks vintage. But it's actually got the modern, correct insulation on the wires. And then I just trailed that wire out. This is going to be the top of it, the tops of all of the branches, and then the lights will hang down from that. And here I've got a box with strain reliefs so that you don't have to worry about something pulling on it and pulling the wire. And then a little 4x4 by 2-inch deep box, drilled holes in it to put the strain reliefs. And then I've got some terminal strips. I bought these off off Amazon also. There's not a lot of places around our town where you can buy electronics parts. No more Radio Shacks anymore. Used to be able to go to Radio Shack and get this kind of stuff. Now there's no Radio Shacks. I guess in a bigger town you might be able to find stuff, but around here you can't. So I've got one already in here. This is the hots all in here. And a lot of people would probably on something like this just wire nut everything together. Bring your power cord. This one right here is going to be bringing the power in, and just wire nut everything together and have like 7-8 wires under a wire nut or something like that. I prefer to use a terminal strip. This has got the strip here that lets you connect all the terminals together. So this is the neutrals for all of the different lights. And then right up here on the top is where my power will come in. And with this bus bar here, they're all connected together. So power will come in here. All these are hot, so all the lights will be fed off that. And it lets me make it nice and clean. And again, I don't know if you can see. I'll try to see. Okay, you can see one there. I was taught when you're putting wires on connections, whether it be a breaker, a terminal strip, whatever, you always leave just a little tiny bit of copper showing. So you can look at it and you can actually see a little copper. That way, and anybody else along, and especially when you're doing home building, an inspector can come along, and there's no question about if there's insulation trapped up underneath the screw and you don't have a good connection. And that's important, because if you don't have a good connection, whatever load you put on it is going to try to draw a certain amount of current. And it needs that particular current to get the voltage that it needs to operate. And so it's going to draw what it needs to draw. Well, if you've got a bad connection, that 1/2 amp load down there, it might be pulling 5 or 6 amps at the connector to get the 1/2 amp it needs at the other end, because you've got a bad connection. And it'll heat it up. And boy, when it heats up, that's when you get insulation melting back and burning back. That's when you get electrical fires. So it's important to have good, tight, strong connections. And always when you put something in, before you go, do a tug test. Make sure it doesn't come out, because it's possible sometimes to get the wire, instead of between, like this has 2 little metal pieces here, it's possible to get it underneath sometimes one of these metal pieces, and you tighten a screw, you think you've got a good connection, but it's actually just sitting there. And you give it a tug, and boy, it comes right out, and you realize, hey, that could have been a problem that I avoided. So you can get your connection right. So that's what I'm up to. And then the lid will go on it, and then I've got some chain and some fasteners, and I'll be having to attach those fasteners on, I'll take my chisel and kind of smooth out where they need to go. So I'll have 6 fasteners and chain going up to the ceiling, and then this cord right here, which will be supplying the power to it, will be, I'll loop that up through the chain to hold it still. And then there'll be up in the ceiling there'll be a junction box where this power wire will be connected to the wire coming from a switch there. So I figure I might as well get that done, and this is one more thing out of my way. And fastening these really is not that difficult. It's just a matter of I try to keep them lined up. Like this is my power wire. This is the 4th one. It's just a matter of stripping it back, and again, this cloth over it is, I don't need all that, so I'll trim some of that off with my razor knife, hopefully without cutting myself. And you really don't want to nick the insulation. And then strip it back some. And I like to twist the wires together, because that way you don't have to worry that as you stick it in there, one of the wires catches and you got wires sticking out. If you've got wire that's not underneath your terminal strip and is sticking out, it can do some things that are not good. One is you can have live voltage out there, so if you ever go touching anything, you got a wire sticking out there and you can get shocked from it. Another thing is, it's possible if you've got, especially if it's tight, if you've got wire that's not underneath your terminal and sticking out, it's possible for it to short against something else, and that's not a good thing either. And again, you just make sure that you get it good and snug. Give it the tug test. In the visual, I can see just a little tiny bit of copper underneath there. And then just got a couple more to go here. And that's a little longer. I'm going to cut that one off a little bit. And again, cut some of this cloth wrap off. I need to put a new blade in my knife, I guess. Been using it to cut too much stuff that's dulled it. Now, if you're doing wiring electrical switches and outlets and the like, if you pay attention, most of them will have right on the switch or right on the outlet, it will actually have a strip gauge where it'll show you how far back you need to strip it. If you didn't know that before, you know that now. And that way you don't have to take the guesswork out of it. And you know that you're stripping it far enough that you can get it all the way up underneath the terminal and still have just a little bit of insulation exposed, so that anyone coming behind you and an inspector will know that you've got a good connection. You don't have insulation trapped underneath. And again, doing the tug test. And where this one is, that one's going to be a little long. I always leave my wire long going into a box. It's easier to cut it off than it is to try to add to it. It's real tempting if you get it too short. It's real tempting to just, splice it together. But there's ways you can do that are okay. But it's just every joint that you've got, every junction that you've got is a chance for a problem. So you really want solid runs of wire between point A and point B wherever possible. And if you can't, then you want something like a terminal strip and a junction box instead of just tie wrapping it, putting it under a wire nut together and stuffing it in a wall somewhere or the like. In fact, if you were to be doing your own wiring and you had to be inspected, and an inspector came up, he goes up in your attic and takes a look, and you've got wire spliced together with wire nuts and taped together, sitting there in your attic. He will fail you on your inspection, because that's a fire hazard. Anywhere you have to join it together, it's got to be in a box. It can't be just sitting out there exposed in the air. And I know people do it that way because I've been working on places and seen it myself, and gone and bought a box so that I can put my connection in the box. And the trick on this too has been kind of tricky to make sure I don't get things crossed up so that I have trouble stuffing this back down in there. And then this is my power one coming in. And again, like I said, I like using the terminal strips, because then instead of having a wire nut in, because it's possible if you've got several things, there's codes on how many wires you can have together under a wire nut anyway. I'm not going to tell you what they are because I don't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up in my Uglies book. But there are limits on how many connectors you can use together with wire nut. In fact, most of your wire nuts, when you buy them, if you take a look at them, it will tell you that certain color can have up to so many of a certain gauge wire. And people all the time will put way more connectors under one than they're supposed to. And you may not get a good connection. And again, that not having a good connection is a fire hazard. So you don't want to be taking shortcuts with electrical and creating a fire hazard. That's just barely the right big enough to fit all this. And so it's going to be interesting getting it to fit in, because I did end up tangling up one of my wires. Okay. And since I'm having to do this, I will give each of these a tug before I call it a day. There we go. I got fat fingers, big fingers, and I always wish that I used bigger boxes on stuff. I always hate it when a box is so small that you can't hardly get into it. Okay, and then all my wires fit in there, and then a cover for the top. And this is actually a marine box, so I don't have it's actually suitable for use in wet applications. All right, and that's that. And then again, like I said, this is the one that's going to be providing the power to it. This one's just hanging loose. I've got and it'll have a bulb hanging from it, kind of over the center of the table. All right. Well, that's where I am on my wiring. Got that figured out, and I just wanted to show you a little bit about what you do there. Again, I'm not a licensed electrician, but I was taught by licensed electricians, and I was trained in the Army. Was an electronics technician in the Army, so I do have some training in this stuff, and learned a lot in industry from people who were licensed and didn't know what they were doing. So Again, just if you're doing electrical, it's not real complex. There's resources out there to tell you what size connectors and how many connectors, and it's real important with electrical that you do it right, because if you don't, you'll have breakers tripping all the time. You'll create a fire hazard. And here's the thing about electricity. It can kill you. And not only can it kill you, it'll hurt the whole time you're dying. So do it right, and it's not a big deal. Do it wrong, and it could be a big deal. All right, so here I am. I've got the wires all on. I got my chain on. And I'm doing the last of the light plugs, and I thought I'd show you what is involved with those, so you could see it's really not that hard to do. Again, I bought all this stuff off Amazon. This is the cloth wrapped twisted electrical cord. I mean, this looks like something you would see on a vintage lamp, but it's brand new insulation. And again, these are the bulb fixtures that I got. They've got a strain relief on them that tightens down so that you're not putting any strain on your connections. And these are a bakelite, or at least look like a bakelite, so that they're kind of retro. And then this is just the ring around it that holds the shade on. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do on shades yet, but I'll show you what's involved in putting one of those on. It's not difficult. Okay, here's the next one. The last one, well, next to the last one that I've got to do. Again, each of these comes in a nice little kit together, everything together. Just take it out. I found out I have to be careful with these. Oh, that one just screws on, because some of them, the neutral screw is sitting loose inside of it. And these come in several pieces. You get the socket, and again, this one's got the screws are both in it. I mean, it comes totally apart. And then I just go ahead and loosen the screws up to make it easier to attach the wires when I come to that point. And then just put the strain relief. It threads in, screws into the top, and then Bob drops it on the floor. I hate it when I drop stuff. Then I got to pick it up. Okay, that just screws in, and it's got a cap that goes over it. Feed the wire through that, through the strain relief. And you have to remember to put the parts on in order, because you can't do it after you're done. Kind of unwrap the wire a little bit, not too much. And then I just loosen up this fabric covering, just fray it and loosen it up some, and then take my little knife and cut some of that off, just to get it out of the way. I don't really have to worry about how it looks, because this is all inside, but I find if you try to be as neat as possible, it carries over into everything else. And then strip the wire. And these you need to strip pretty well, because you have to make a loop. It's not like the others where it just stuck in straight and it had two metals that clamped down on it. This one you have to make a loop in this that will go around the screw. So it needs to be a little longer. And hopefully I got these long enough. If not, I'll just strip a little more. And then again, I like to twist them so I don't end up with wires sticking out all over the place and not underneath the screw. This is especially important in something like this because they're not that far apart. Now to wire these up, on most of these you've got a gold screw and a silver one. And your wires are black and white. You think, well, what does that accomplish? Well, the black wire, which is your hot, it goes on the gold screw. And again, I just bend it, make sure that it's underneath the screw. Tighten it down. Give it a tug. You know, it's kind of like with ratchet straps. You know, if you're loading up something and you put your ratchet straps on, as long as you tug at the ratchet strap and say, yeah, that'll hold, you'll be good. But if you don't do that, it'll come apart on you. And that's the same way it is with electrical. If you don't give the wires a tug, they'll come loose. If you give them a tug, they'll be all right. And then I need to loosen my screw just a little bit more. A couple of these, the neutral screw was off. This one, it was tight. Again, just get the wire underneath the screw. Tighten her down. You can also get these with a little push switch. I didn't need them for these because I'm going to be turning it on and off with a wall switch. And these were like 8 of them were, I think, like $12 or $13. And then put the strain relief on. Snug it all the way down, or as tight as it'll go. With these, it's just about to the bottom. And then I give it one more tug, and that just pinches that top part, pinches it down on the cable so that your strain is taken up here instead of down here on your connections. And then the ring that will eventually hold the shade on once I figure out what I'm going to do for shades. And there you go. This is ready to just screw a light bulb in, flip some power, and you got a light. So, you know, don't be limiting yourself to what you can buy at the store for lamps and lights. You can make some lights out of some really interesting stuff. And as you see, you know, this wire wrap cable, if you like the vintage look, you can also get it in colors or just, you know, whatever you want. These, I picked black because I like the black. I thought it looked good that way. All the hardware is black, so it all coordinates. And yeah, these weren't that expensive. A box of 8, I think was like $12 or $13. So pretty inexpensive buying them in quantity. Of course, that was on sale. I think they were normally about $20 for a set of 8, and they had a special going, so about $12 or $13, somewhere in there. All right, so that's that. All right, now you see why I wear a hat all the time. It's the next day. I just got back from having to run up north of here and got the tile that'll go on these kitchen cabinets to finish them, and also my cement board screws and some bullnose tile that I wanted for the shower, and went ahead and picked up my grout for the shower. So I'll get that last bit of tiling done in the shower and be able to start putting grout in. But in the meantime, yesterday before I wrapped up, I got my chandelier finished and got it hung. You can see the chains holding it there, and I think it looks pretty good. What do you think? Hanging up there, it fits in with the theme of the house. and again, like I said, that was just that was the top of a tree. It got cut off right in there, and then all these other branches just started growing up. Well, the guy that I got it from, he had cut them off all about the same level. And basically what I did is just trimmed them up a little bit and smoothed it around at the ends. I had to knock the bark off of it and trimmed it up a little bit, kind of evened them out. He had pretty much left it that way, but there were some jagged ends on some of them. So I straightened that up, smoothed it, sanded it. It has no finish on it at all. That's just natural, the way the cedar looks. And then these pendants hanging on it. And I've got some I think G25 bulbs, or the globe-shaped bulbs. They're almost as big as this phone as far as height. But they're LED bulbs. They're 40-watt bulbs, 40-watt equivalent LED bulbs. And they've got a gray glass in the globe. So I thought that would look good with all the black motif and everything. So the only thing I've got left to do is to get it wired up and connected to a power source. And so I've got that out of the way. I won't have to move it again. The only issue will be I'll have to work around it a little when I'm putting the ceiling up, but it's going to be a few months before I put ceiling up. I'll be putting the insulation in, but with the way funding is and everything, it'll probably be a few months before I'll be putting the tongue and groove up on the ceiling. But hey, at least we'll be in here. So there you go. Another last look at the chandelier. Another project done, another thing knocked off the list. And tomorrow I'll be going to that tile work, and I'll show you what the bathroom and the kitchen look like when they're done. One of the things I got to do in the bathroom, this is the piece of oak board that I'm going to be sanding. It's got some beautiful details, some beautiful stuff in it. I'm going to be sanding this down, and I'll have to trim the edge a little bit. But this is what's going to be on the wall as you're going into the shower. This is what's going to trim up that wall. So instead of seeing 2x4 and tile and the edge of the tongue and groove pine, this is what you'll see going into the shower. And I'll put I haven't decided yet if I'm going to stain it or if I'm just going to leave it natural and just put a clear polyurethane on it to protect it. But I will go ahead and use my router and put a round over edge on it here to make it look nicer. But then I just got to decide which side of it looks nicest. But that's from a tree out in front of the house, but that's going to be going in the bathroom. So that'll be a fun thing to get that finished up. So I'm looking forward, once I get my grout down and I'm not carrying grout and mortar and everything in there, then I'll put my my vinyl plank flooring down, and then I'll be able to get the toilet put in and get my vanity plumbed up and the like, and I'll have a working bathroom. And once that happens, I'm going to have to hustle on getting the electric going, because as soon as Deb's got a working bathroom and a working kitchen, she's going to want in here. So I got to pick up the pace a little. At any rate, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed that chandelier. You know, Debbie, when I first talked about doing that, she just kind of looked at me like she wasn't seeing it. All she saw was this thing that went all kinds of ways and was partly covered with bark and dirt and everything. And when she came home yesterday and she saw it hanging up there, she decided, I really like that. That's pretty, and I think it looks good in here with the cordwood and like I said, the tongue and groove pine that'll go up there. So, all right, just wanted to show you that. Thanks for stopping by. Again, this is Bob at Serenity Hill. We appreciate you stopping by. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Hope you're enjoying the build, and we're looking forward to getting in here so I can get out there and start doing some gardening. All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye now.